Have you ever imagined yourself on a luxurious, old-fashioned train, winding its way through misty mountains, only to find yourself in the middle of a real-life murder mystery? Well, today, we're diving into one of the most baffling and chilling cases in railway history, the story of the Phantom Killer. This is a real story, pieced together from historical records, newspaper clippings, and witness testimonies. Our story begins on a cold, blustery evening in September 1935. The legendary Simplon Orient Express, a symbol of opulence and adventure, is making its journey from Istanbul to Paris. Its carriages are filled with a diverse cast of characters: wealthy socialites, diplomats, businessmen, and artists, all wrapped in their own worlds, unaware of the drama about to unfold. Among them is a woman named Maria Farcasanu, a wealthy Romanian socialite traveling with her companion. Another passenger is Karl Strasser, a German businessman known for his quiet and reserved nature. As the train thundered through the night, crossing from Yugoslavia into Italy, the passengers settled in for the night. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels on the tracks was a lullaby, promising a peaceful journey. But peace was the last thing this night would offer. The next morning, as the train approached the Italian border, a conductor made a horrifying discovery. In her locked-from-the-inside compartment, Maria Farcasanu was found dead. The scene was shocking. She had been brutally attacked, but strangely, nothing of significant value appeared to be stolen. Her jewelry and cash were still there. The only thing missing was a silver fox fur stole. The cause of death was determined to be a vicious assault, but the weapon was nowhere to be found. Panic began to ripple through the train. The Italian authorities were immediately notified, and the train was held at the next station for a thorough investigation. Every passenger and crew member was questioned. The problem was, how could a killer commit such a brutal act and then simply vanish from a locked compartment? The door was bolted from the inside, and the window was shut tight. There were no secret passages, no hidden hatches. It was as if the murderer had dissolved into thin air. The investigators were stumped. They turned their attention to the passengers. Everyone had an alibi, or at least a plausible one. The train was a moving, self-contained world, yet the killer seemed to be a ghost. Suspicions fell on various people. Was it a jealous lover? A business rival? Or a common thief who was scared off before they could take anything valuable? Then, the investigation took an even stranger turn. As the police were examining Maria's belongings, they found a small, almost insignificant clue: a train ticket. It wasn't for the Orient Express. It was for a different, much shorter, local route. This ticket belonged to a young man named Karl Strasser, the quiet German businessman. When questioned, Strasser claimed he had no idea how his ticket ended up in the victim's compartment. He insisted he had been asleep the entire night and knew nothing about the murder. The police were suspicious. Strasser's story seemed too simple. He was a man traveling alone, with few connections, making him an easy target for suspicion. They searched his compartment, but found nothing incriminating. No bloodstains, no murder weapon, no stolen fur stole. Despite the lack of evidence, the ticket was a tangible link, and the pressure to solve the case was immense. The Italian police decided to detain Strasser for further questioning. The story became a media sensation. Newspapers across Europe dubbed the unknown assailant the Phantom of the Orient Express. The public was captivated by the mystery of the locked room murder on the world's most famous train. Was Karl Strasser, the quiet German, a cold-blooded killer? Or was he an innocent man caught in a web of circumstance? While Strasser was being held, the investigation continued. The police tried to piece together the events of that fateful night. They re-interviewed passengers, re-examined the crime scene, and explored every possible theory. One theory suggested the killer might have climbed along the outside of the moving train, entered through the window, and then locked the door from the inside before leaving the same way. It was a daring, almost impossible feat, especially on a moving train at night. But with no other explanation, it was a theory they couldn't dismiss. Days turned into weeks, and Karl Strasser remained in custody. He maintained his innocence throughout the intense interrogations. His life was turned upside down. He lost his job, his reputation was ruined, and he was facing the possibility of life in prison for a crime he swore he didn't commit. The only evidence against him was that small train ticket, a flimsy thread to hang a man's life on. And then, just as the case seemed to be growing cold, another shocking event occurred. Weeks after the murder, a young Yugoslavian student named Josef Mitrovic was arrested for a completely unrelated crime, a petty theft in his hometown. During the search of his belongings, the police found something that made their blood run cold: a silver fox fur stole. It was the exact one missing from Maria Farcasanu's compartment. When questioned, Josef Mitrovic confessed everything. He was a student, desperate for money, and had been hiding on the train as a stowaway. He admitted he had been moving between carriages, looking for an opportunity to steal something valuable. He had targeted Maria's compartment, thinking she was a wealthy and easy target. His confession revealed the chilling truth behind the impossible crime. He had hidden in the narrow space above the ceiling panels in the train's corridor. From there, he was able to remove the panel above Maria's compartment, drop down inside, and then replace the panel. The compartment door remained locked from the inside the entire time. After the attack, he climbed back into the ceiling and made his escape, later disembarking from the train unnoticed. But what about the train ticket? How did Karl Strasser's ticket end up in the victim's compartment? The explanation was simple, yet it had condemned an innocent man. Mitrovic confessed that during his prowling through the train, he had briefly entered Strasser's unlocked compartment while he was asleep, looking for something to steal. He hadn't found anything of value, but he had accidentally picked up the ticket, which had likely fallen out of Strasser's jacket. Later, during the struggle with Maria Farcasanu, the ticket must have fallen from his pocket, unknowingly leaving a false trail that pointed directly at an innocent passenger. Karl Strasser was immediately released. He had spent weeks in prison, his name smeared across international headlines, all because of a tiny, misplaced piece of paper. He was a free man, but the ordeal had left a permanent scar on his life. The case of the Phantom of the Orient Express was officially closed. Josef Mitrovic was tried and convicted for the murder of Maria Farcasanu. The mystery that had baffled investigators and captured the public's imagination was finally solved. It wasn't a ghost or a master criminal with supernatural abilities. It was a desperate young man who used a simple, clever trick to bypass a locked door. This story serves as a chilling reminder of how easily circumstantial evidence can point in the wrong direction, and how an ordinary journey can turn into a life-altering nightmare. It's a real-life thriller that proves reality can sometimes be far stranger and more terrifying than fiction. The glamour of the Orient Express will forever be intertwined with this dark and fascinating chapter in its history. What do you think about this case? Could you imagine being a passenger on that train, knowing a killer was lurking just out of sight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating historical mysteries. See you next time.